What if the family you thought you knew held secrets that could rewrite your entire life? For years, I had carried the weight of my brother's disdain, his sharp words cutting deeper than I ever admitted. Growing up, Ethan was the golden child, tall, charming, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I was the quiet one, the dreamer, always scribbling stories in a tattered notebook while Ethan basked in the glow of attention. At our family reunion last summer, I thought things might be different. I was wrong. The reunion was held at our old family cabin, nestled deep in the Vermont woods, where the air smelled of pine and memories. The long wooden table was laden with casseroles, laughter echoing as cousins swapped stories and aunts fussed over who brought the best pie. I arrived late, my beat-up sedan rattling into the gravel driveway. Ethan was already holding court, his voice booming as he recounted his latest business deal. He spotted me and grinned, but it wasn't the kind of grin that welcomed. It was the kind that promised trouble. "Hey, Tommy, still chasing fairy tales?" he called out, his tone dripping with mockery. The table fell silent. Heads turned. My cheeks burned as I forced a smile, muttering something about my freelance writing gig. Ethan leaned back, sipping his beer. "Maybe one day you'll grow up and get a real job. Dad always said you were wasting your time." The words stung, not just because they were cruel, but because they echoed the doubts I'd fought for years. Our father, a stern man who valued success over sentiment, had passed 2 years ago, leaving a void that Ethan seemed determined to fill with his own brand of superiority. I sat at the edge of the table, picking at my plate, trying to blend into the background. My cousins moved on to other topics, but Ethan's barbs kept coming. "Remember when Tommy thought he'd be the next Hemingway?" he said later, laughing as if my dreams were a punchline. I wanted to disappear, to slip back into my car and drive away from the cabin, from the memories, from him. But I stayed, because Mom had begged me to come. She was there too, frail but smiling, her eyes pleading for peace between us. I couldn't let her down. As the evening wore on, the mood shifted. The kids were playing tag outside, their shrieks fading into the twilight. I stepped onto the porch for air, staring at the stars peeking through the trees. That's when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. A sleek black car pulled up, and a man in a crisp suit stepped out, clutching a leather briefcase. He looked out of place, like a city lawyer lost in the woods. "Thomas Reed?" he asked, his voice clipped but polite. I nodded, confused. Ethan, who'd followed me outside, snorted. "What's this, Tommy? You in trouble with the law now?" The lawyer, Mr. Hargrove, didn't flinch. He asked to speak with me privately, but Ethan insisted on staying, arms crossed, smirking like he was waiting for a show. We sat at the picnic table under the porch light, moths fluttering around the bulb. Hargrove opened his briefcase and slid a stack of documents toward me. "These are from your father's estate," he said. "He left explicit instructions for them to be delivered to you on this date, at this reunion." Ethan's smirk faltered. "What's this about?" "Dad's will was settled years ago." Hargrove ignored him, his focus on me. I scanned the papers, my heart pounding. They weren't just legal jargon, they were letters, handwritten by Dad, addressed to me. My hands trembled as I read the first one. "Thomas," it began, "you were always my dreamer, my storyteller. I was too hard on you, and I'm sorry. Your stories are your strength, not a weakness. I've left you something to prove it." The letters revealed a side of Dad I'd never known. He'd kept every story I'd written as a kid, every scribbled draft I thought he'd thrown away. He'd even sent one to a publisher friend, who'd held on to it until Dad's instructions were clear. The documents included a publishing deal for a novel I'd written in my 20s, one I'd abandoned after Dad called it a nice hobby. The publisher had been waiting for my approval to move forward, funded by a trust Dad had set up in my name. It wasn't just money, it was his belief in me, hidden all those years. Ethan grabbed the papers, his face darkening as he skimmed them. "This is a mistake," he snapped. "Dad would never." He stopped, his eyes catching on a second set of documents. Hargrove's voice was steady. "There's more, Mr. Reed. Your father also left a letter for you." Ethan's hands shook as he read it. I caught glimpses of phrases. "Ethan, your ambition blinds you. Learn from your brother's heart. You've taken enough." The letter detailed how Ethan had manipulated Dad into giving him control of the family business, cutting corners and ignoring Dad's values. Dad hadn't known how to confront him in life, so he did it in death. The twist came not from the letters, but from someone unexpected. Aunt Clara, Mom's quiet sister who'd been hovering at the edges of the reunion, stepped forward. She'd been Dad's confidant in his final years, the only one he trusted with his regrets. "Your father was proud of you, Tommy," she said, her voice soft but firm. "He was afraid Ethan would crush your spirit, like he tried to crush his." Her words hit like a thunderbolt, shifting everything. Clara, who I'd barely noticed all these years, had been watching, waiting, holding on to Dad's truth until the right moment. Ethan's face was a mask of fury and shame. He stormed off, leaving the papers scattered on the table. The reunion went quiet, the weight of the moment settling over everyone. Mom reached for my hand, tears in her eyes. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I should have stood up for you." I squeezed her hand, unable to speak. The pain of Ethan's mockery, of years feeling less than, didn't vanish, but it felt lighter, like a wound finally allowed to heal. In the days that followed, I signed the publishing contract. The novel, rough and raw as it was, became my lifeline. It wasn't about proving Ethan wrong, it was about proving Dad right. Ethan called a week later, his voice subdued, asking to meet. I agreed, not out of forgiveness, but curiosity. At a diner halfway between our homes, he admitted he'd been jealous of my freedom, my ability to dream without fear. It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was a start. I didn't need his approval anymore. I had Dad's, and my own. The stars over the cabin that night had seemed brighter after Hargrove left. I'd stood there, letters in hand, feeling the weight of a lifetime shift. Family isn't just blood, it's the people who see you, who believe in you, even when you can't see yourself. Dad's final gift wasn't the trust or the contract, it was the truth that I was enough, just as I was. And as I drove away from the reunion, the road ahead felt less like an escape and more like a beginning.